Yes, they just
Welcome,
decided this.
everyone. We're ready to get started. Thank you, Dana. Dana will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So join me.
Where's the flag?
As is my personal tradition as moderator, it's been a year since our last deliberative session, and I always like to spend a moment in reflection on the friends and loved ones that we may have lost, and especially for those members of our family who are in service overseas. So join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you all. I will now read the notice. To the inhabitants of the town of Newmarket in the county of Rockingham in said state qualified to vote in the town affairs, you are hereby notified of the annual meeting. The first session for the transaction of all business other than voting by official ballot shall be held Tuesday, April 7th, 2009 at 7 p.m. at the Newmarket Town Hall. The first session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of each warrant article. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for final vote on the main motion as amended. The second session of the annual meeting to elect officers of the town by official ballot, to vote on questions required by law to be inserted on said official ballot, and to vote on all budget warrant articles from the first session on the official ballot shall be held Tuesday, May 12, 2009 at the Newmarket Town Hall. The polls shall be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, I want to go over something about the process here that we've talked about at the last meeting, and I'm going to talk about it up front. What you see before you are 9 warrant articles, and those articles have been put forward, one of them being the election of officers, by the council and through the necessary legal action to create the wording. These warrant articles will go on the ballot if nobody does anything at this town meeting. So there will not be a necessity for a motion to put the warrant article forward as worded. And the reason why we're bringing this up now is in the past, we have had some kind of procedural confusion over amendments and then questions on amendments. And I want to make this clear. This body has the authority to amend a warrant article, but you cannot remove a warrant article from the ballot. So this article, if we talk about it and debate it and argue it and get information, which is what we are here for, but the wording doesn't change, that's it. The article goes forward. Only if this body decides to amend the wording will we be taking votes. So is that clear with everybody? So we can talk and argue and discuss, and that's what we're here for, like I said. But if no amendment takes place, there's no necessity for a vote. And the reason I bring that up is because imagine if you said, okay, I vote to put forward this article, and you vote no. Now we've created a problem that can't exist, so therefore the vote is irrelevant in my position. And so that's how we're going to go forward. So we have 9 warrant articles. Article 1 is to choose all necessary town officers for the ensuing year. Town council, 2 for 3 years. Town clerk, tax collector, 1 3-year position. Budget committee, 3 positions for 3 years, 2 for 2 years, 3 for 1 year. Planning board, 2 for 3 years. Trustees of the trust funds, 1 for 3 years. Supervisors of checklist, 1 for 6-year position. Trustees of the library, 1 for 3 years. Any questions on that article? Okay. Article 2?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion to move warrant article 3 in place of 2 for discussion.
Very well. So you're asking to move the operating budget to this current discussion right now, right?
Correct.
Very well. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
I did.
Lorianne? Does anyone have any questions about this Motion and second. I will call for a vote. All in favor of moving Article 3 to the front of the discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move to Article 3, operating budget. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate as a gross operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of this first session, for the purposes set forth therein totaling $10,177,760. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $10,546,520, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Newmarket, or by law, or the town council may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013-10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Recommended by the Budget Committee, majority vote required. Would anybody like to provide some information for this body on this? And would you particularly like to address the fact that the default budget is actually higher than the proposed budget? So that if anybody has any questions about that?
Would defer that to
Councilor Winowski?
Town Administrator.
Sorry, I demoted you. I didn't mean to do
I've always wanted to hold two positions at one time.
that. Yes, please, use that.
Mr. Moderator, if we, while he's going over there, I'd like to announce, I have two councilors missing, and I'm not sure if there's anybody missing on the on the Budget Committee, but Vice Chair is traveling, and Councilor Fox is in a meeting upstairs and should be joining us later.
Good evening. You know, a year ago, I stood here and presented what was my first budget at the time, and I know that working with the council and the Budget Committee, we tried to present as lean a budget as we could possibly come up with, and I thought we did a great job. This year, I think we've done a little bit better, but it's been a massive undertaking by department heads, by the council, by the Budget Committee, by me, in working together, understanding the situation that we're all in with the economic climate today. And in doing so, I think we've come up with a fairly lean budget, because what we wanted to try to do, and our goal was to try to put out capital expenditure type of projects for the future when, or until a period of time that the economy turns around and we begin to rebuild back into our capital improvements and some of our road programs, a little bit more money to take on more activities. It's correct, the default budget is higher than the current budget of $10,177,760 that we're bringing to you today. Just to give you a little perspective, the general fund budget that we are currently operating under is $6,713,143, and we add to that two warrant articles that are for the fire EMT full-time positions that were voted last year, and cable TV, a general fund appropriation. And what we are proposing this year, which brings that total to $6.8 million. The general fund appropriation in this budget that's being proposed today is $6,244,432, a reduction of $613,446. The overall budget, in looking at everything in toto, last year's budget was $10,686,376, and the budget before you today is $10,177,760, or a $508,616 reduction. A lot of the things that are in this budget are just basic necessities that we need to take on our day-to-day responsibilities. This budget has started out with 56 employees. It continues with 56 employees. It provides for a pay raise for the union personnel by contract on the police side, and a increase for the non-union employees for the balance of the for all the rest of the departments. One thing that is not in here, unfortunately, is an ability by the town and the DPW union to negotiate a contract, so that will be put off for a year. One of the things that we did do is we reduced our capital improvements, as I mentioned, through the Capital Improvements Committee. They made some really hard choices and allocated just enough funds into all the departments to continue to meet our goals, albeit a few years pushed out. And that is part of what made the recommendations that we have for you today. And just to let you know as to how much everybody worked on this budget, when the budget came from the department heads to me to work with them, the department heads had already reduced the budget by $128,739. After I sat down with them, I made an additional $129,182 in reductions. The town council and the budget committee met. I think they had 3 meetings all total. We met jointly to talk to all the department heads, and the council, when they sat down to do their work, reduced the budget an additional $307,085. And in the end, the budget committee, being the most, frugal, did a $48,440. So that came out to a total of $613,446. As I mentioned, this budget basically taking care of the day-to-day operations that we have. There are really no major big increases in here. We're not doing anything new. We're just going to address the needs, and as the economy gets better over time, we'll be back with future budgets, and we will present to you plans to begin to build upon what we have at the present time. So, with that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any comments? Motions? Recipes? Very well, seeing none, we can move on to the next article.
Moderator,
Yes?
if I may, I'd like to move that we restrict reconsideration for warrant article number 3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Can you explain what that is?
Yes,
for the
I will.
public?
What just occurred is a motion to restrict reconsideration of this article. This is being the operating budget. What we did is consider that article, and by not changing it, that article goes forward to the ballot as it's written. By moving to restrict and reconsideration, if you vote in favor of that, it means that this meeting can't bring that issue up again later. Sometimes if you fail to do that, later on in the night, somebody may say, I would like to move that we reconsider Article 3, which is what we're talking about. And if that motion passes, the discussion opens up again, and a different result can happen. So it's a procedural vote to ensure that later on in the evening, Article 3 doesn't come up and a new discussion and a new vote takes place. Does everybody understand? Okay. So the motion is to restrict reconsideration. So if you are voting in favor, you're voting that this is done, I don't want to talk about it anymore. If you vote against it, you're saying, I'd like to bring this article up again later and talk about it and potentially have a different result. So all those in favor of the motion to restrict reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll go now back to the original order of things. Article 2. Bond for new village water, sewer, and drainage improvements, and for improvements to sewer manholes, acquisition of a step screen and water meters. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,782,500 gross budget for the purpose of construction improvements to the new village water, sewer, and drainage systems, in addition to improvements to the sewer manholes within the sewer district to eliminate infiltration and inflow of groundwater. Acquisition of a step screen for the Creighton Street lift station and water meters under the federal stimulus package program, and will qualify the town for federal funds in the form of a 50% principal forgiveness. Such sums to be raised by the issuance of serial bonds or notes not to exceed $2,782,500 under and in compliance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, New Hampshire RSA 33-1 et sequential as amended. And to authorize the town council to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and to take such other actions as may be necessary to effect the issuance, negotiation, sale, and delivery of such bonds or notes, as shall be in the best interest of the town of Newmarket, New Hampshire. Additionally, to participate in the State Revolving Loan Fund, SRF, RSA 486-14, established for this purpose, and to allow the town council to expend such monies as become available from the federal and state governments and pass any vote relating thereto. Subject to the receipt of federal stimulus funding, recommended by the town council, recommended by the budget committee, 3/5 ballot vote required. It is permissible to have these things be more than one sentence, I believe. So, anyway, okay, so Article 2. Can someone please provide some information to the meeting about this? Yes, Sean. Excellent. Good to see you again. Long time.
Let's see. My name is Sean Gregg. I'm the Water and Sewer Superintendent. As part of the federal stimulus, we looked at certain projects that we had that we are working on. The meters, which we are actively trying to do ourselves, but we thought we might try and take advantage of trying to get some money out of the stimulus. The manholes, which is an ongoing process, which is part of an I&I study. So we're trying to get money for that as well, but we have been trying to do those in-house. And the New Village project was another project that was directed by our I&I study as well. The results have come back to see on who gets what out of that piece of pie. We were lucky enough to get $940,000 stimulus money for the New Village project. So if this passes, we would look forward to go forward and with that project and utilize those funds to make those improvements down in New Village. New Village right now has a substantial amount of substantial amount of water going into the collection system, which is costing us quite a bit of money at the wastewater plant because it's water we're treating that we shouldn't have to treat. It's a very old system in the area. So, and as part of the I&I study, identified that area was better off to replace rather than try and fix. So as being part of that I&I study, it actually becomes part of our administrative order, which was set forth by the EPA on that we need to fix some things within our system. Any
May
questions?
I ask? Yeah, let me
go
ask a question. Can you, I'm sure everybody else understands, but what's an I&I study?
It's inflow and infiltration. It's sump pumps, it's broken pipe, it's water that's getting in through cracks, through manholes, through people with sump pumps that are actually pumping it into the system. And this project, what this project is to do is a lot of the sewers down there are actually in people's backyards, which means we can't access them at all. And they're very old sewer pipe. I don't even know when it was put in. I suspect it was put in when the houses for the mills was put in. So this project is actually, we would put all the sewer mains out into the streets where we could access them. They'd all be new, up-to-date pipe that was watertight. So we wouldn't be getting any of this. Plus, we would be supplying the houses with drainage connections. So their water that was coming into their basements would go to the drainage system, not to the sewer system.
Thank you, Sean. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes? Sir.
Are there hookup costs that the individual homeowners would have to bear to hook up to the system?
So just to repeat the question, because it wasn't into a microphone, the gentleman asked whether there were hookup costs for individual homeowners. Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
We are doing a survey now of the area to see what the extent of what we need to do in the area. In discussions with the town administrator, we are looking at going to the house, but the homeowner would be responsible to, if their pipe actually goes out the back of the house, they would be responsible to bring it to the front of the house and hook in.
Yes. Mr. Porterata, can you come up to the microphone? Can we get into the microphone thing? Yes, please. He'll move out of the way. You don't have to worry.
Ed Porterado, Exeter Road, Newmarket, longtime resident. Is this money guaranteed? Because I've seen a lot of conflictions about this lately, about who's going to get what or what, and then I guess the state is not going to give no sewage money at all to that project.
We are getting, we're on the list, and I have the list that shows that we are getting the money, 940,000. We are number 24th on the list, and
Well, you're within the 30th anyway. There's only 30, there's going to be 30 towns or county, whatever is going to be issued this money. But I thought we were higher than that.
no, we are number 24 for the wastewater side. On the
Because I-
water side, we did not get any money, but on the wastewater and drainage side, we are number 24.
Now, we're not going to get nothing from the state.
We are getting 940,000 as part of the stimulus money.
I know right here it says lately the governor's not going to give no money this year on any sewage money the town wants, like 20 or 30% of the cost.
That could be the SAG program. That's a totally different program where you get 30% grant money for sewer projects. And they suspended that project for, I believe, a year or two. And so the people that were actually eligible for some of the projects they've already done aren't getting that money right now. It's not to say they won't get the money, but that SAG program has nothing to do with what this project has to.
Because I'm not speaking against this project.
no.
All I'm saying is,
Yeah.
are we going to get this money? Because we don't, what then?
We don't do
I
it.
mean, I see
If
nothing.
we don't get this money, I don't plan on doing the project. I mean, it's a project that we have to do, and we need to get it done because it's part of the order, but it's something that it would have to be looked at. I just know that we're 24th on the list, and come June, we're gonna have to sign an agreement with the state to do this project by February 1st of next year.
Because, I mean, it's a nice stimulus thing, but I don't trust the government at all. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it that way. There's been too many letdowns.
Tell us how you feel.
And I'm just saying, I mean, it's a good project. It should have been done years ago, not now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying whether we could afford it probably, you know what I mean?
I can't say what they're going to pull the money out or what. I can't, all I can say is that we're on the list. They said we're getting the money. I can't,
So
I can't do any more than that.
So if this project is voted, voted in, and we don't get no stimulus money, it's going to be void, or are we going to be hold to that vote?
Not gonna do it.
Don't, hold on a second.
The answer is if we don't get any stimulus money, we're not going to do the project.
And that is the effect of the last clause in this warrant article, where it says, subject to the receipt of federal stimulus funding.
Yeah, I saw that too, because I talked about it before, you know, to make sure we get this money, because otherwise, I mean, it's going to be kind of tough.
Yeah.
Now, when we do these projects for water and sewer and all that, the cost of paying this back comes off to what, the water bill and the sewer bill that we get?
The
Or
cost,
just come off the regular property tax, no matter what?
if it's water and sewer, it will come out of the water and sewer
Rates?
rates.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Comments? Thank you, Sean. Article 2 will go forward as written. Article 4, Veterans Memorial Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the Newmarket Veterans Memorial Expendable Trust Fund. These funds will be used for the renovations to existing memorials and for proposed new memorials. Submitted by petition, majority vote required. Would anybody like to stand up and speak about this, or anybody like to speak about it? Ms. Rosa.
Hello, my name is Janice Rosa, Chair of the Newmarket Veterans Trust Committee. The reason this petition warrant article went into effect is because the town council voted to take off $5,000 and zero a CIP account to zero. We, in the meanwhile, in our process, decided to do a petition article to put $5,000 back into the account to build up those reserves for new memorials and to renovate existing memorials. In the meantime, the Budget Committee turned around, at the same time we were doing our petition article, and they turned around and the Budget Committee put the money back into the CIP account. So therefore, because the Budget Committee put the money back into the CIP account, which we appreciate, thank you very much, we would like to make the motion on Article 4 to, well, first let me just back up 1 minute before I make the motion. Our purpose was not to duplicate funds. Our purpose was just to ask for the $5,000 to continually build up. So we don't want our taxpayers to think we were trying to squeeze another $5,000 out of them. So in good faith, since the Budget Committee worked with us, we're going to work with the taxpayers of Newmarket, and I'm going to propose to make the motion to Article 4. This is a little tricky, and I may ask the Budget Committee. It's really tricky because it was recommended that we turn around and make the motion to read to say just to see, but we think that's going to be very confusing to the taxpayers, and if we can motion it to just to say to zero, if that's possible.
Let me give you what I believe the intent of that is.
Okay.
If you try to make it to zero, it will mean that the town cannot spend any money.
Okay.
So you
better
either
to go
need
back
to
to C.
leave a nominal amount of money, or it sounds ridiculous, but to extract every word after 2C. That is a legal amendment.
Okay.
Because it allows a warrant article to go forward, and it doesn't matter, frankly, how the town meeting votes.
Okay, so then I would like to turn around and to make the motion to Article 4, to read, to see if the town of Newmarket, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1 to be placed in the Newmarket Veterans Memorial Expendable Trust Fund. These funds will be used for the renovations to existing memorials and for proposed new memorials. And the reason for that, because I don't think that a lot of the people in the community is going to understand what 2C is. And I was told if people came out and voted no on 2C, then if they came out and they said no because they don't understand it, then that would take, no means no, and you lose your capital money in your capital reserves account. So if anybody else wants to change the motion, you're welcome to come up and change it.
Brian Hart seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes. Brian Hart.
Thank you, Janice, for explaining. The issue for folks to understand is that if the warrant article went on with the $5,000 and the voters did not pass it, then even the money in the budget would not be allowed to be spent for it because the voters had the opportunity to vote on the specific appropriation and they said no. So to prevent that kind of confusion, this proposal will get you there by passing, because I'm pretty sure people are going to vote to pass $1.
Okay, and we'd like to thank the Budget Committee again.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Right here.
Yes.
If the Article 4 as amended with the $1 does not pass, does that also negate the $5,000?
Yes, I believe
Thank
that's
you.
correct.
Well, that's what he just, yeah, for sure.
The question was, if the warrant article, even with the sum of $1, fails, does that restrict the town from investing any money in this purpose? And the answer to that question is yes. So if the town meeting votes no, that they're not going to allocate $1, then the town is constrained, and they're not allowed to then, adjust monies to put money toward the Veterans Memorial Trust Fund.
This is all, do I have to say my name and address and all that
Yes.
stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Rochelle Sharples, 10 Lamprey River Park. This has all been a very confusing, very, very confusing process. So I guess I've been pushed up here to make the motion, Article 4, Veterans Memorial.
Hold on.
So many
I
motions.
hate to do this to
Oh,
make it
that's
more
right,
confusing.
that's right,
Can't have a
okay.
motion while there's a motion on the floor,
Right.
so we're going to have to vote on the first one, and then you can make your
So
motion.
I'll just stand here and say, go Red Sox.
So, yes, you have a procedural question.
Rescind or amend.
Yes, as long as the person who makes the motion comes up to the table and says, "I'd like to remove my motion," and the seconder does the same thing.
Or, so rescind your motion.
That was well organized.
I would like to rescind my motion of putting the $1 into the CIP account for wait a minute, hold on, I lost it. I would like to rescind the motion on Article 4 of the Newmarket Veterans Trust that I just made for $1. I'd like to make the motion.
Nope. Just stop right there. You're going,
okay.
we're doing great.
Okay, all right.
And Brian has retracted his second. So we are now at a clean slate state. So, and you're going to make it more confusing?
No.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment.
Please make your comment.
I would suggest that if you want this to work out where you have $5,000 in the budget, that you amend this article to say to see.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
That's it.
Okay. Yes. Ms. Rosa, do you have a motion you'd like to make?
Well, do you take a vote on it?
Nope.
Since we just made, okay.
You retracted the motion
Retracted
prior
the
to the
motion.
vote there,
Okay.
and the second was also retracted.
Okay, so you don't have to vote on that?
Nope.
Okay, so then, let me go back to what I wrote. I get flustered up here.
It's okay. Doing great.
Only TV. Hello, everyone out there.
Cruel.
No, you just stand behind me for support. I don't even want to know what she did. I would like to make the motion on Article 4, just to say, to see.
Second.
What does that mean?
The motion has been made and seconded. Article 4 will now read, Veterans Memorial Expendable Trust Fund, to see. Majority vote required. I realize that this sounds silly, but this is the exact scenario that arose in a case out of Barrington, and this is a legal amendment. It leaves the warrant on the ballot for the town meeting to consider, and there is no requirement under the statutes that the text makes sense, and that's exactly what the court said.
Can you explain to what to see means to the lay
To
people?
see is I believe that is a verb that.
No.
It means
See, no. I thought you meant the letter C was
No,
going to
no,
be
no.
attached to it. That's
T-
why
no,
I'm
to
asking
see.
you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It
I
goes
don't like
to
being
see.
ridiculed when you ask the question.
I'm just kidding with you,
All right.
Dana. To see.
Yeah, okay. Because some people here were thinking it was the letter C was an attachment to the amendment.
No, the only thing that will be left will be the first two words, which are to see.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Thank you.
And it really has no meaning, and
All right.
that's why I wasn't making fun of you, I was making
No,
fun
I
of
thought
how
it was, but I,
silly. Very well. We have a motion and a second. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say on this? Very well. How about if we just vote? All those in favor of the amended? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. The warrant article will go forward as amended. It will read to see.
she has something she ought to say?
No, with that change now, that's how it's going to be on the ballot. Is there any type of exclamation,
Nope,
okay, so maybe we should like put a little
we cannot.
something in the paper, well, we
The
could
council
write,
can.
just to explain when the voters do come to vote, why it says that, and we don't look like a bunch of, like, what the hell they do.
Moving on to Article 5. Rescind bonding authority for fire, rescue, highway infrastructure bonding. To see if the town will vote to rescind the $1,600,000 bonding authority for the fire, rescue, highway infrastructure bond adopted on May 11, 2004, and reaffirmed on August 27, 2008. Majority vote required. Would anybody like to explain what it means to rescind bonding authority so that the voters understand? Thank you. Town Administrator Wieniawski.
Back in May of 2004, this town voted for a $1.6 million bond to make improvements to the Department of Public Works and to construct the Fire Rescue Squad building out on Youngs Lane. During the course of the work that led up to that event, at the time, there was a failure to properly post the public hearing that took place. The project moved forward, and what we discovered a year ago was that because the bond was never issued, because of the technicality, the construction of the project became a liability on the town's fund balance, which reduced the available funds the town had to utilize towards reducing taxes and to just keep the day-to-day operations of the community in place. Because generally, you're supposed to have about 2 months' worth of the operating budget available. So it reduced it down, and in August of 2008, we had a special town meeting where we asked the residents of the community to ratify this action that was taken in 2004 because we went through the postings and made sure that all our I's were dotted and our T's were crossed. When we went out for the bond, we received a bond back, and we only had to bond $1.3 million at that point in time because the town had paid off a portion of it. It was paying itself back through the short-term notes and bonds. That the interest rate came back, I think it was about 6%, and we were going to be paying probably $1.1 million in interest on a $1.3 million bond. Because the auditors gave us a hit against our fund balance, the building's paid off. This town paid for the building, and the goal was not to have the town pay twice, but we wanted to be able to use, if we got a reasonable tax rate or a reasonable interest rate, to put it back in to secure our fund balance. That didn't occur. The council, during the budget deliberations, we talked about this because we had put money into the bonds and notes for interest and principal payments, and it was felt that since it's paid off, we took the hit on the fund balance, that what we'd like to do is have the community rescind the bonding authority at this point in time. So if you vote yes on this, it means the bond goes away, the building's paid off, and we continue on with everything else that we do.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? We'll move Article 5 forward as written. Let us hope that the rest of these articles become more coherent. Change the purpose of downtown redevelopment capital reserve account. To see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the downtown redevelopment capital reserve fund, established May 12, 1998, to the town clock repair and maintenance capital reserve fund, 2/3 vote required. Administrator Winowski.
Thank you. I'll just give you the first part of it, and I'll let Bob Gazda, who can talk to the clock a little bit better than I can. When a year ago, the council began looking at the town clock because we had some problems with it. There is a striker mechanism that's supposed to cause the bell to ring, sustained a lot of damage, and it was broken. We need to have it repaired. The clock hasn't been repaired, and I don't know, Bob can tell you that, the last time it was overhauled. And so the council set up a committee to look at ways that we could potentially begin to make the repairs to the clock, because it's about $40,000. During the CIP program, we were going through looking at all the different CIPs we have, and we came across the Downtown Redevelopment Capital Reserve Fund. This was money that was set aside for the work that we now see downtown that's been completed to some extent. And there remains about $24,000, $25,000 in that account. And so the discussion at the CIP level was to change the purpose of this fund from the Downtown Redevelopment Capital Reserve Fund to the Town Clock Repair and Maintenance Capital Reserve, so that way we can use those funds to begin the process of making improvements to the clock and to continue putting money in for the future, so that way we can have funds to maintain the clock on a yearly basis, or every so often we can have it overhauled if that's what's necessary. But Bob Gazza can speak more to the clock and what's there. But basically what this will do is eliminate the Downtown Redevelopment Capital Reserve Fund, and in its place overlay it with the Town Clock Capital Reserve Fund, and utilize the balance of those funds, as I said, about $25,000, to begin the work to make improvements to the clock.
Thank you. Bob, would you like to come up and say something, or? Sure. Thanks.
Robert Gazda, 27 Packers Falls Road, Newmarket. My father was the watchmaker, clockmaker in Newmarket, who last overhauled the clock in 1972. passed away in '84. I've been taking care of the clock since probably since I was 10, probably 50 years now. I've been going up there, winding it. We wind it every week. It's an 8-day clock. You ascend a series of ladders, stairways, get up into the belfry, and you crank this thing. Crank the time side, because it's a weight-driven clock. It's got about 250 pounds on the cables. Then you wind up the striking side, which has got 500 pounds on a cable. Well, in the process of going up there and trying to get the striker to work a couple of years ago, a welded piece that supported the levers that hold the striking mechanism from running away from itself fell apart. There was a repair weld that was made to it, and it was not made in the proper manner. It was probably made back in 1910 or so, when it didn't have the technology. And this weld was just a clad weld. So it was a thin layer on both sides of this plate. Anyway, the thickness of a dime on each side. And over 60 years, 70 years, the levers resting on it caused this plate to deteriorate so that the weld broke off. Bang, it came off. Luckily, the weights at the time when I was working on it were only 10 feet in the air. So the weights, so that this big gear that holds the that's attached to a drum that's attached to the cable, supports the weights, started running away from itself. And it was it's a massive gear, and it started shearing off the teeth, and it deteriorated, and it just disintegrated the gear, broke in several pieces. It really upset me that happened, because that clock, we used to go up there and take care of it, and they just wanted to get the thing to strike. It hadn't been striking now for about 20 years, because some of the townspeople decided that at the time that not to have the clock strike because it was waking people up downtown. It was running, maybe it was not striking the right hour every time, whatever. Anyway, so we shut down a striker 30 years ago. Just recently, we went up there to try to get it running again. This thing happened. So now we're back to deciding whether we want to get this clock striking again. And I think it's worthwhile to get the clock repaired and striking. It was built in 1872. It was brought here from Boston. It was built by George M. Stevens Company. It was a big tower clock company at that time. And it has a unique striking mechanism called a crane striking mechanism. This is a historic clock. I've done some research on it. There's only 3 in existence still operating in New England, and that's down in Massachusetts. And I think there's one up in New London, New Hampshire. So anyway, we've formed this committee, and the committee has come up with some 2 well-qualified professional clock repairers. We have 3 bids out. 2 of them have come up with very realistic figures to get I propose that we do this in 3 phases. One would be to get the time side overhauled, which would mean taking the clock out of the tower, cleaning up all the pivots, remachining the pivots if necessary, rebushing them, remaking the gears if you need to, and setting the clock up again for the time side so it runs correctly. Right now it's running very well, I'm glad to report, because I've done some major changes to the clock. The time side, but I can't guarantee it's going to continue to run like that unless you get it overhauled. It hasn't been overhauled since 1972. This clock needs to be completely torn apart and brought to a professional clock restorer to do this work. I have some background, but I don't have enough experience to do that kind of work. Especially seeing that the striking side has the gears that now have to be remanufactured. They have to be cast, they're cast iron, so they have to be remade. Figures come up to, we've broken it down into some different figures, but the total package would be anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000. And so you do it in 3 phases. You get the time side done. While you've got the clock all torn apart, you may as well go and do the striking side. Both of those packages together is about 17,000. And I think we have enough money in the CIP, if this thing passes, to do that. The biggest part of this project would be the third phase, which is the faces of the clock. The front face of the clock, if you look at it from the street, you'll notice, I think it's the number 7, has been taken off, because the can won't go all the way around. It strikes that thing, because the face is warped. It just actually bows right out. The faces were made out of a masonite material. So it's going to require a steeplejack or a company to come up there with a lift to actually take the faces off the clock and replace them, remake them. It's a lot of fine millwork and the rental of the lift. That's going to be about another 17 grand just to do that. While you're doing the front face, you may as well go ahead and do the other two, because they're made out of the same material and they're also wearing. So total package would be anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000. But the clock is a fine timepiece. I wish clocks in my house ran as well. And that clock runs 24/7. It's minus 40 degrees up there in the wintertime. It's 110 up there in the summertime. That clock still runs pretty well. And I think, I remember when it struck, and I remember a lot of people here probably remember when it strikes. That bell was put up there, I think, a year after the clock was put there, and it was cast in Midway, Massachusetts. And the guys that I've had go up there, the professionals, say that's a fine, well-tuned bell. You don't find those anymore. And to change this clock to anything but back to the original would be a shame. So I would hope everybody would support this article. Any questions? Anybody?
Thank you very much for all the work you do. Does anybody have any questions, comments on this warrant article? Yes.
Hi, Nicole Benson, 12 Mockingbird Lane. Just a quick question. With the technology these days, and I know people did not want to have the striker working because of all hours and stuff, is there a way with technology that it can be operating only certain hours for the striker? Is that possible?
That's a history lesson, like it.
In order to keep it original, the crane striking mechanism, it doesn't come with the option to allow it to not strike, say, at 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. The technology just isn't there to do that. You would have to convert it back. You'd have to convert it from a manual striking clock to an electronically controlled, electronic. And that would require, that wouldn't even be it wouldn't strike the bell. It would have a tone, some sort of electronic tone up there, which would be a speaker system. Or you could have some sort of you could have an actuator that would strike the bell, but it'd be electrically controlled. And it would have a hammer that would hit the bell. So those two options. But in order to keep it, if you want to keep it original, there's no way that you can shut it down. You'd have to convert it and either have it with an electrical striker against the bell or with some sort of a amplified tone.
Thank you. Yes.
Buzz Dieterle, Smith Garrison. 2 questions. Since we have the council here, are you guys going to let it strike if it's fixed?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are you going to let it strike if we spend the money to fix it?
We've had conversation on that. We don't have a definitive answer.
So
what we were told early on, that someone in the town, and what we understood was one individual, there was only one, that wanted it to stop, and it was stopped. So we've had some discussion at the council level, but the council has not given a definitive answer to whether it will or not. I think we're looking to see what the cost is and where the taxpayers are with that.
So if we pass this,
There's a good chance it might work, yes. And I'm not going to say I won't be on the council then, so that's another council decision.
I'd feel a lot more comfortable voting for this if you guys would tell me tonight that by majority you'd be in favor of letting it strike.
I'm for letting it strike.
That's
I am
1.
too.
2.
3.
3. Okay. Second question, have we settled our dispute with PSNH over the wiring downtown so that this $24,000 is not really needed to pay for the underground wiring to be finished?
Okay, that's that's conversation the council is currently having. We have not got a definitive answer to what we're looking for at PSNH to do.
Do we have an approximation of what the spread is right now between what we think we pay and what they want us to pay?
Mr. Wanowski?
But
I would caution us to be careful on that one because we are talking to legal too, so.
I'm trying to, yes. We're still in discussion on that, but this does not have anything to do with that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And will not be part of what would go to pay. When the council voted for the work, monies were put into various buckets as the best way to refer to it. And initially, this capital reserve fund had approximately $200,000 of it in the reserve, and $180,000 was allocated towards improvements in the downtown. So the balance that's left over is what we looked at and said, okay, we can change the purpose and use it towards the restoration of the clock at this point in time. So relative to PSNH has nothing to do with it. It wouldn't be used.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Article 6 will go forward as written. Article 7, revise the purpose of the sewer fund capital reserve account to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the sewer fund capital reserve fund established March 8, 1977, to be used for the purpose of improvements to the sewer system. 2/3 vote required. Sean, you're being nominated. You shouldn't sit so far in the back.
The purpose for this is is to change the capital improvement language. I believe the current capital improvement language says the capital reserve fund is to be used for equipment. So, and on the water side, the capital for the water capital improvement fund, it says for improvements to the system. So we're just trying to clean up the language so it makes it more clear what we can use the money for, that it just doesn't say equipment, so we can use it for sewer pipe, or we're just trying to make it more clear, the definition. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Let me ask you this. Is there another source where voters can look at to understand what the full definition of improvements to the sewer system is? Because I would assume that there must be some language somewhere that says sewer fund, capital reserve fund means equipment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so now is there going to be a new thing that the voters can access to learn about what exactly is meant by improvements to the sewer system?
Well, what is meant by improvements to the sewer system, it means, it encompasses everything that has to do with the water and sewer department operation. Improvements to manholes, sewer pipe, lift stations, the wastewater treatment facility, lab work, the buildings. It just makes it gives a clearer definition. It just doesn't say like equipment someone could take as a pump or a tool. This sewer improvements means it has a broader definition. It doesn't mean we're going to run out and spend it's sewer improvements, I guess.
Sounds like we're changing the intent.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? You may initiate your long walk back to your seat. Article 7 goes forward as written, seeing no other comments or questions. Article 8, allow the Conservation Commission to expend funds to see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 36A 4A 1B to authorize the Conservation Commission to expend funds for contributions to qualified organizations for the purpose of property interests or facilitating transactions related thereto, where the property interest is to be held by the qualified organization and the town will retain no interest in the property. Majority vote required. Would someone like to provide some information on Article 8? Thank you.
Valerie Shelton, 124 Cushing Road, member of the Conservation Commission. I hope that everyone was able to pick up a green sheet that was up here on the table. If not, please take one when you leave. This is kind of a talking point or overview of why we have these two articles, 8 and 9, before you. To summarize briefly, it's really some housekeeping items this RSA 36-A:4-A1B. And 1A, which is Article 9, was set forth because there was some confusion over whether or not conservation commissions or towns were expending funds in land acquisition projects for conservation purposes, or that they may not hold title to, fee simple title, or perhaps that they were spending money on conservation lands and protection of those lands where that land may not be within the municipality. So this is really to set forth clarification that the Newmarket Conservation Commission will continue to have the authority to expend our conservation funds. Just a little background, these our conservation funds that are expended come in from the land use change tax. Whenever any land that's under current use comes out of current use and is developed, there's a penalty that's paid on that land, and half of that amount comes into the conservation fund, the other half comes into the general fund. So those are the expenditures that the Conservation Commission uses for land protection efforts. These two warrant articles, neither one will have any impact on requiring new funds from the taxpayers. And again, relative to specifically to Article 8, this allows the Conservation Commission to basically assist other qualified organizations in their protection efforts of land within our municipality. So that could be the Nature Conservancy, maybe purchasing land here for protection efforts, or the Audubon Society, or the Great Bay Research Protection Partnership. And then we may want to partner up with them as opposed to expending all of our funds on that particular acquisition. And we've done quite a bit of this work in Newmarket, most of which is to protect our watershed districts and our prime habitat areas. So this allows us to spend a little bit of money to help generate additional grant money, or to help these other organizations actually acquire the specific land or easements. And then those organizations, the real benefit to the town is that those organizations then are the ones that are required to monitor and manage those lands, and we don't have that additional burden on us.
Thank you. We're discussing Article 8 now. Does anybody have any questions or comments on Article 8? Yes.
Hi, Linda Mantegani, 7 Doe Farm Lane. I'm wondering what the balance is in the Conservation Fund, and also I'm just curious, would these groups need to go to the planning board and the town planner to get permission to use these funds?
No, that is a great question. There is the requirement for a public hearing whenever the town acquires land or the use of our funds for that land. I would have to actually defer to the council, the administrator, on whether or not, or maybe Brian Hart would know better, on whether or not we have public hearings on the expenditure of our funds for assistance with qualified organizations.
So it's within their preview to be able to do that as part of the Conservation Commission. But the public hearing, yes, has to be done, absolutely.
But
I don't know what the balance is now. Perhaps the finance director, you don't have that right now, okay? That's something that they can get and give it to you. Yeah.
The question about the town planner and the planning board, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the answer to that question is no. The town planner and the planning board does not oversee the expenditure of funds by the Conservation Commission. Just to answer that question, does anybody have any different opinion? Sorry. Any more questions, comments, or concerns on Article 8? Okay, we'll move on to Article 9. Allow the Conservation Commission to expend funds outside the boundary of Newmarket. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 36A, 4A, 1A, to authorize the Conservation Commission to expend funds to purchase interests in land outside the boundaries of Newmarket, subject to the approval of the town council. Majority vote required. Shelton?
The best example we can set forward on this particular article is recently the town just acquired an easement over the Smith property off 152, which encompasses a large portion of Falls Brook. This is an easement that we hold. Most of the land is actually in Durham. But the reason that we wanted to move forward to actually acquire this easement and hold the easement is because it really is critical to the protection of our wellhead, our town wells in the Aquifer Protection District.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Article 9? Going once. Article 9 will go forward as written. Article 10, other business, to transact any other business which may legally come before this meeting. Does anyone have any other transactionable business that may legally come before us? Yes, Mr. Porterata.
Just one more thing. I think tonight there was an audit follow-up committee meeting too. You understand?
Yes. Municipal audit people are meeting
So
upstairs.
have, we've been never told anything what happened? Anybody been arrested? Are we gonna get any money back or what?
No, that's not their, that is not their purpose. Their purpose is to look at what the auditors have made recommendations, and that committee looks at it and reviews it and has discussions with the auditing firm prior to, well, right after they do the audit. What you're talking about is the Forensic Audit Committee, which has ended, for all intent purposes, their discussions, and is now in the hands of the legal team that we have, the council, town has rather, and we've had some discussion, but we're not at a point right now to release anything. We're still waiting for additional information from the Attorney General's office and other legal sources. So
Something will be told to us eventually.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. I understand that some information is posted on the town website.
Yeah.
The entire audit.
The entire audit?
The audit is, yes, yes.
The older I get, on my computer, I'm forgetting things too. Write it down and then post so I can read it.
Thank you, Mr. Porterata.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn? Second? Anyone second it? Second. All those in favor? Brian Hart made the motion. Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all. See you next year.
It was pretty cut and dry.
This is yours, right?
Yeah, she was at
No, not really.
Yes.